What's up, comic book fans? Pete here from Comic Books Transformed, where me and my good friend over there, Brian, discuss shows and movies that have been adapted from comic books. We are in Andor, season 2. Brian, how do you feel after watching the first 3 episodes?
I'm glad Prestige Television has come back to Disney Plus.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. So
I wish every show they produced felt like this. I really do. I don't know if it cost them like $1 billion or whatever, but just do it.
Yes. Andor, the show that primarily gets a lot of love from Star Wars fans, but then sometimes you'll go on a YouTube channel. Like I remember I showed this one YouTube channel to you where I really like this one video the guy made. Then I watched his video on Star Wars and he's like, I hate Andor. The show's so like, he like ragged on Andor. He's like, and then there's that guy Star Wars Theory, and he said like Andor's for certain people where you like to eat a certain kind of cracker and stuff like that, and like implying you have to be pretentious to like this show. And here's the thing: this is what I'm going to say is that like if you're just kind of watching Star Wars for like explosions and action and stuff, then this is probably not the show for you.
No, this is not typically the vibe that Star Wars gives off, unfortunately.
Right, exactly. But it's like with our comics where we might read like a comic like Gotham Central, which focuses on like the Gotham Police Department versus Batman and the Joker. And it's so much more adult and procedural, amazing stuff. I mean, there's so many examples of comics where it becomes so much more realistic and serious versus what you would expect.
Yeah, and I hope, I mean, they just announced like a ton of Star Wars projects, and I hope that something has this feel to it.
Yeah.
In movie form,
Yeah. I mean, this is the best Star Wars thing since Disney purchased Star Wars.
Absolutely. Hands down, no question.
Yeah. I mean, because like, what's even the competition?
Yeah, and it's funny too. I mean, I enjoyed Rogue One, but never in a million years would I have thought a prequel to that movie would be like the best thing I've seen in Star Wars in years.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was thinking about this when I was watching like the second episode. I was like, wait a minute, this is a prequel to a prequel of the original Star Wars movie.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a prequel. Right? To a prequel.
But it's so fucking good. I want to just give you a little context. So I'm watching these episodes, and you and I are kind of having this back and forth of like, well, should we watch 3 episodes per week? Are we going to be able to do this? And then you're saying like, okay, I'm going to start watching them, and I already watched like an episode and a half. Then I go on Yahoo, and they're like, the actress that plays Bix, they're like, oh, she talks about the rape scene, the first Star Wars rape scene. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. I was like,
I feel so bad for Bix. She's had endorsed so much shit.
Yes. And I had this weird kind of moment because in this season, they show her right away and the other 2 survivors from Cassian's hometown that he was raised there. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, there's a lot of that in the first season. But then for some reason, I thought that she wasn't the same character. Like, I thought she looked a little different. I was like, oh, who's this other character? I'm like, oh, she's the one that's going to be raped in a Star Wars show. and then eventually, like, I made the realization. I'm like, okay, no, the same character. It's Bix. This happens to be the character that was, like, psychologically destroyed from listening to the sounds of this alien race being slaughtered.
Yes.
Right?
As I said, you can't help but feel horribly for poor Bix and all the shit she's endured.
Yes.
And it's funny, I didn't know that scene was coming, but the second that guy started talking to her, I'm like, oh, God, please, there's no way they're going to do that, are they?
Right. So it's funny because Brian and I just did a recording of The Last of Us. If you're on our channel, you can watch that one. And we just went right to the spoiler of the end of that episode, right? And now we're going to go right to the end of these 3 episodes because that's what I want to talk about.
Yes.
Like, I just saw the headline. They're like, the first rape scene in Star Wars. And I'm like, oh, God, please don't do this. And then it starts to happen. And I'm like, oh, no, it's going to, like, she's kind of getting away. It's working in her favor. But, oh, is this show going to be that bleak where she's going to almost get away, but then she gets raped and then, like, captured? But then she doesn't get raped at all, which I was like, thank God. And then when he comes in with the fucking TIE fighter, I was like, that might have been I was like the most excited in a Star Wars thing that Disney has made.
Yes. When they show that shot of the missile blowing up the transport truck. I was like, yes!
Yes, so good. It's so good because like he's flying in the TIE fighter, and the stormtroopers and stuff and the Imperials are in it, and they're like, "Is that a TIE fighter? Like, what's a TIE?" And then you just like you don't even see their reactions or anything. You just see the missile just blow them up into pieces. Yeah. I love it. And I also love that like there's that weird kind of osmosis where like if you play the Star Wars, because you always talk about how you like the Star Wars TIE fighter game, and so like the things like in his screen and stuff match up with the video games and the sounds too.
Yep.
You know, oh, it's so good.
Nice.
Like just targeting things and just like I love when the TIE fighters in the modern Star Wars things had that kind of like that rapid fire kind of noise where it's like I can't even do it, but it's like yeah. Yep. I fucking love it.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know, Brian. I mean, that was my thing. I went to that right away, but there's so much to talk about. There's 3 episodes of stuff. Why don't you bring up something you want to talk about?
So yeah, obviously they're doing. Well, we mentioned this in our last video, but we might as well start here. They're doing 3 episodes a week for 4 weeks, which sounds kind of nuts on paper, but when you think about it, and you think about the first season, how there were sets of like 3 episode arcs, really, and I think it makes sense to do them all at once like this, because the first episodes are a little slow. If I had just watched the first episode standalone by itself, I might have been a little underwhelmed, I suppose, because it's very, very much set up for everything else. You know, this is very similar to when they were like setting up for the heist to steal all that. What was it like? They were stealing money, I think.
Yeah.
But there was like 2 episodes set up, and then this crazy fucking heist where all this shit goes down. That's exactly what the third one was. So I'm glad they're releasing 3 at once. As much as I'm afraid to need to watch 3 episodes in a day and a half, basically.
Right. Well, because the way it comes down to it's like a movie essentially every week.
Yeah.
And we've done that here. We've watched movies and then covered them like each week, and then we do that on the Laster Cast too. But you talk about the first episode being set up. It's interesting because like what happens to Cassian is actually the least interesting stuff out of all 3 episodes.
Yes, if I had to pick a flaw here, that story felt fairly wasteful. It's an interesting idea. So Cassian, well, you know what? Let me back that up there. The opening scene where he actually steals the thing was fantastic.
Yep.
But once he arrives at the rendezvous point where he's just to drop it off to somebody else,
right?
It kind of goes off the rails a little bit there. I guess those were some other rebels that weren't exactly part of, I guess the rebellion is kind of fractured in a way,
right?
And just them turning on each other is an interesting idea of what happens when shit goes down and you lose your commander essentially. But
yeah,
it wasn't that interesting because it went on for too long.
Right. Well, so what is really interesting about this show, okay, and you just kind of brought it up, is because you said like the Rebel Alliance is fractured. The thing is, I don't think that they are the Rebel Alliance yet.
Yeah.
I think that like the acts of Rogue One, like what happens in Rogue One creates the Rebel Alliance. But right now they're just different groups that are all rebelling against the Empire, but they're not you.
Yeah. They even say that earlier on too. They say like, which rebellion, sort of.
Right.
When they first meet there. And I mean, they had some interesting things there. It's just, what do you do when you don't know how to get off you're stuck on a planet, you don't have any means of communication, you don't have any commander. Like you said, these are like splinter cells in a way. And you're in this hostile environment, and not from enemies, but from the actual environment. That angle would have been more interesting, I think. Just them surviving and not necessarily bickering, I suppose. Like, them getting picked off by whatever is there.
Yeah.
Instead of Andor just sitting there handcuffed for 2 episodes, essentially. Right.
Yeah, and then when that fucking creature shows up at one point, it just like starts eating the people. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
Again, they should have done more of that. I mean, they kind of implied it happened earlier on when somebody finds like a foot.
Yeah.
A severed foot out there.
I was like, what the hell's going on? But this is what the expanded universe did for Star Wars when the expanded universe still existed. And like the Clone Wars show's done this. I've said this before on our channel, but like you get these writers that are like science fiction writers or whatever, fantasy writers. They come in, they take Star Wars and they just flesh it out and they make it a lot more interesting, give it much more depth. And I think that like in the first season, you had these scenes. I think Forrest Whitaker's name was Grief Karza. I think that's his name, right? Forrest Whitaker.
No. Forrest Whitaker is Saw Gerrera.
Saul Gerrera. Okay, right.
Grief Karza is oh my god, I can't think of his name. He's Apollo Creed.
From fucking The Mandalorian. Right. Yeah, Carl Weathers. Right.
Carl Weathers, yes.
Okay, Brian,
it's so funny that the first thing I thought of is got to get a stew going. Like that's how my brain works.
Right. No, but you're so hot, man, that you were actually able to be like, "That's wrong, Pete. That's this guy. That's awesome." No.
Well, I have to say that I purposely have my second screen is a list of the character names because I cannot fucking remember.
Oh yeah, I know. There's Bix, there's Andor, there is Mon Mothma. I can't even fucking remember Stellan Skarsgård's name.
Luthen Real.
Yeah, Luthen. Right. Okay.
So the problem for me is that we got the scenes with Dedra Miro, like the Imperial officer lady. And I'm like, oh, I love this character. And I cannot remember her fucking name, and I hate it. So that's why I started pulling this up here.
Okay. See, now you're gonna make me jump around too because I was totally forgetting about all this Dedra stuff, and then that's one of my favorite fucking scenes I've seen, like in any Star Wars thing, is when she deals with the mother-in-law. First of all, I didn't think those two were gonna be like full on dating and like a couple.
Yeah, I didn't remember. I know they had met and they had some kind of like attraction in some regard, but I was definitely not expecting that. And I was not expecting to be so engrossed into just her just just manipulating the mother. Like it's like you're thinking on paper, like, oh, Andor's stuck on a planet and they're trying to survive because these creatures and all this other shit. And this scene where he's meeting his our boyfriend's mother is like a billion times more compelling.
Right. That's right. That's exactly my point. Is that the Andor, the stuff with Cassian is like so much or so less interesting than all this other stuff. And like I love that fucking scene so much because we've seen this scene before where like an in-law comes over and the in-law sees all the stuff in the house and they kind of like make little passive aggressive comments and you get annoyed and there's tension. And maybe there's a scene where like someone kind of breaks and confronts the other one. But what I think you forget about Dedra, not you, Brian, but like I think just watching the show is that she's like extremely competent, right? She's like an extremely competent Imperial. And so she like literally just dictates to the moms, like, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. And I just love that. I'm not used to seeing that kind of scene.
I also loved her, I found one of the most interesting scenes in the earlier episodes was the scene with the Imperial group. Mm-hmm. And they're playing for, it was Gorlam or Gorlin? Gorman.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just, all these people are there. They're trying to plot the best way to kind of take over and take the resources without, causing an uprising. And just when Krennic talks to Dedra, she's like, you're awfully quiet. You're not talking to anybody. It's like, I brought you here for a reason. And she's just like, 2 sentences. This is what you have to fucking do. And she walks off. I was like, yes. Such a power move. Excellent delivery. Easily, probably my favorite character in the series, honestly.
I would agree with you on that. However, I think Luthen is something else. I think that speech that Luthen gives in that elevator in the first season is like one of the best things I've ever fucking seen in anything.
Yes, I completely agree there, and I may have forgotten that in a sense because he's more of his like flamboyant Luthen in this.
Yeah, the foppish kind of
so far. So, so yes, that's a very excellent point.
Yeah. So let's talk about Gorman for a second. Then I want to talk about Luthen too. The reason why I'm able to remember the name Gorman is because I think of Aliens, where she's always like, you always were an asshole, Gorman. Like that's the guy, right?
Yeah, there you go.
But I read a Star Wars novel in the new canon called Catalyst, which is like a prequel once again to Rogue One, and it was really good. And there's a lot of like Krennic and I'm trying to remember what the fuck the name of the main woman is in Rogue One.
Jyn
Erso, right? There's a lot of Galen Erso, her dad, and like working on the Death Star and stuff. So like this stuff with Krennic is already like after a lot of the stuff in that novel. But I was just trying to think like, what the fuck are they actually trying to do with Gorman? Are they trying to get energy from Gorman to use for the Death Star? I guess.
Yeah, they're trying to get materials from Gorman to coat like some kind of shielding, or I don't know, something for the Death Star. That's what I took away from it.
Yeah. Because I thought that when he was calling the meeting together, I was like, okay, now they're going to show a little hologram. Death Star is going to show up, and they're like, this is what we're working on, and but it's not that. It's like
a fucking Taurus video.
I know. And so how do you think that that's going to play out? Because essentially every week is another year of the show, right? And it's basically the 4 years before the Battle of Yavin.
I guess so. Yeah, this was 4 years before BBY. Yes.
Yeah. So, like, I'm guessing that Gorman is going to be a big thing because they did that presentation.
Yeah, I'm going to imagine that we're going to jump into the next arc. I assume Dedra's going to be the lead there as oh man, what was the other guy he's from Game of Thrones. He's
he was like Qyburn on
Qyburn. Yeah, I can't.
Qyburn.
His name is not on my list here, and I'm angry.
Yeah.
But he said like, you can lead this. I feel like that was just basically saying like, we're going to see her do that in the next 7 episodes.
Yeah. That's one of the things. I love that guy was on Game of Thrones and he's an Imperial in this. They always have these kind of like interchangeable. Oh, you're this kind of posh British person. Okay, you're going to be an Imperial. Because and then there's another outlet for that too, because a big portion of these first 3 episodes takes place on Chandrila or whatever, which is Mon Mothma's home planet.
Yes.
And we see some of the cast. We see her husband, her daughter, who's in this arranged marriage, the gangster whose son she's going to marry. And then there's this guy who's like a friend of Mon Mothma's, and like and I think he's in the first season. I just didn't recognize him. Like since the first season and now, Sherry and I have watched the show The Crown, and he plays like a main character on that. So I was like, oh, it's that guy from The Crown, And I could understand how people that are like really into Star Wars would probably kind of get bored or roll their eyes at the Mon Mothma stuff. These 3 episodes. What do you think?
I fucking loved it. No, I loved all the tension in these scenes here.
It
could be a little bit to remember all the players and what exactly happened. I do remember. The initial issue was that Mon Mothma had put so much money into the rebellion. Essentially, I don't remember what specifically it was, but she needed to kind of cook her books so the Empire wouldn't investigate her, and that's how the gangster got involved, and the other guy helped her kind of like, make her finances appear in order. So and in this episode, he's kind of implying the entire time that it's like, hey, I'm putting myself at great risk here, and I'm losing pretty badly here. Like, what are you going to do in return? Like, and I don't quite understand. There was a scene to it in the 3rd episode where Luthen and Mon Mothma are speaking, and he's like, he's all worried about him wanting to cozy up to the gangster guy, and he says saying to Mon Mothma, you need to be protected. I was a little confused by the details of that, but I guess we'll see more, because after that, the rest of that scene was just like fucking Star Wars euphoria. Like everybody's just like high and dancing.
Right. And they kept playing that one song, like, because that sequence, that montage is like 10 minutes long at least. Yeah. And so they cut to Mon Mothma dancing, and it was the same fucking song for like 10 minutes.
Yes.
Like, right. But what I was gonna say is the best thing about this show, the absolute best thing about this show is everything is fucking practical. Everything is like, okay, we need this money so we can do this thing that's going to be rebellious. And so how do we get the money? Well, we have to talk to this person. I love shows where it's like, it's practical problems versus like, oh, this bad guy wants to come after us because he's mad at us. I don't care. I see that all the fucking time. I want to see somebody be like, I need $50 so I can pay for this, so I can do this. And then it's like the things that you come up against. And the best stuff sorry for kind of hogging this, but like the best stuff is when they go to solve one problem and then it creates a new problem with a new person, and it's always just like dealing with these things. And that's what this whole sequence feels like with this guy that's Mon Mothma's friend.
Yes,
it's like
I definitely enjoyed this series of events here. I actually really liked the speech that the husband gives at the end, at the wedding ceremony.
Yeah,
because he's sort of like more on like the imperial side, I believe.
Yep.
But I think he's an interesting character, and I enjoyed these scenes. Again, you wouldn't expect this scenario to be as compelling, more compelling than people surviving for their lives on that jungle planet.
Right. I do feel like with the husband there is going to be some kind of conflict, and he is going to die as well. Because like if the show is jumping a year in advance every week, every 3 episodes are going to jump again. You feel like the friend who is the focus of these episodes, that he got killed essentially after that scene that we saw, right?
Well, yeah, because the driver was what's her name, Cinta. So that was the one of the few survivors from Ferrex. That was I'm sorry, not Ferrex. Sorry, from the heist.
The heist
with Vel.
Yeah,
on Ferrex. So I imagine that Vel was kind of giving him like, okay, like take care of it.
Right.
I don't think the husband is necessarily going to die. I think there's going to be a big reveal, betrayal sort of thing eventually.
Right.
But I'm curious to see what happens with the money launderer guy.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because I feel like he's not going to be with Mon Mothma, because I've read a lot of Star Wars comics, and Mon Mothma shows up in the Star Wars comics, so they take place in between the original trilogy time, and she's never like with a husband or anything like that. So I feel like he's going to be gone by the time the show's over.
Yeah.
But I was going to say
put up or whatever,
Right. But then what was the name of the woman that you said was flying him in that transport?
Cinta. She was like the Indian girl, and she was like, I guess she was like the medic for the heist from the first season, and she was one of the few people that survived that ordeal. And she was with Vel spying on, I guess, trying to find Cassian on Ferrex before all that shit went down.
And Vel is Mon Mothma's sister?
I think it's like a cousin.
Okay. Oh, she's related to Mon Mothma.
They're related, yeah.
Yeah, I think Cinta, I'm pretty sure, just from what I saw in this episode, because I don't really remember her from the previous season, but like I'm pretty sure that she's the Doctor's companion right now on the newest season of Doctor Who.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So she's making the rounds on Disney Plus. They seem to do that. They seem to like find certain people that put into everything.
Yeah.
And she's really good. She's this new season of Doctor Who is really good, and she's really good in it. So,
nice.
But yeah, I mean, let's keep talking about this. So let's keep talking about like the stuff with Bix and then the 2 other survivors.
Yeah, it's with those scenes. Did you kind of get the vibe of what the fuck is this? The
Brasso?
No.
Oh no! You're talking about fucking.
You get the vibe of Rebel Moon from all this.
Rebel Moon, yeah.
It was like Rebel Moon plus the opening of Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah, dude, perfect analogy. Yes. No, because they even talk about grain at one point. They're
the grain. That's the whole thing. The Empire's coming for grain. I mean,
right. No, spot on. Yes, I did think that.
It's a better version of that. It's more the kind of fear and anxiety you feel of the Empire's here. They're coming. Where are they going first? Like, what do we got to do? Again, it's that problem creating other problems sort of thing, and kind of more realistic things like we don't have fucking visas. Like, sounds and also very real world relatable.
Yes, exactly. I did think. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was thinking like maybe they should have used a different word than visa, right? Because I don't even know what the original meaning of visa is, but I feel like that's I think of a Visa card. When I know that people have visas when they travel and stuff too.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know what the credit card company has to do with the kind of like identification passporty kind of thing. I really have no idea. But I don't know. Did they actually say that word? But that I thought that was maybe just like the vibe I got from.
No. They literally do say Visa, and it kind of took me out for a second. I'm like, would they say Visa in Star Wars? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess it has. It's a universal word, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't bother me. I don't think. But yeah, those scenes were interesting. But I guess I wish I had a better idea of what Cassian's purpose was. Obviously, they were waiting for him to come back. He wasn't supposed to. He was supposed to drop the ship off and go back there. I understand they're hiding out, but I don't understand what they were stealing that ship for. You know, they didn't give us any. We know that Luthen's waiting for him. We know that they're waiting for Cass. Luthen's waiting for him for the ship. They're waiting for Cassian himself.
Yeah,
but we don't really understand what the purpose of it was.
I agree. Well, I mean, I think that's going along with what I was saying about the show, though, is that there's like real practical problems. Like it felt like with them, they had to be there for a reason because you need to be somewhere. Like you need like a place to live and stay. And I think that's the thing about Star Wars is that everything of Star Wars stems from the original trilogy, right? So when you think of the Rebels, you're like, oh, well, they're on Hoth. And so that's they're safe there, right? The Imperials don't know they're there. And you just think that you can kind of go to any planet and hide. But this show makes it like, no, it's like our fucking world where like the government is keeping track of you. And like, if you show up somewhere, you show up on their radar, you know, it's very scary stuff. And that's so much of the first season and this season too, where it's like, you have to kind of move people and put them in places where the Empire can't get them.
Yeah, no, it's the original movies. You're right. You get the impression that there are a gazillion planets and you can just go to any of them and they're not all inhabited.
Right.
But this show makes it seem like, no, there's nowhere you can fucking run. And I love that.
Right. It's so much scarier. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to it. It's so fucking good. And I understand why it's not everyone's cup of tea. Because it's not that bombastic. This is based on toys, kind of Star Wars stuff. It is like serious, real world, intense drama stuff. It just happens to be in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm sure they've made action figures for every fucking character in this, but I honestly, not that I don't buy Star Wars figures really,
right?
But like I wouldn't be interested in owning an action figure of any of these characters necessarily. But I would clearly say that this is like the best fucking Star Wars show by far, and you know. Rivals movies, you know?
Oh, dude, 100%. And I would change that too because I would actually love a Luthen action figure. I'd love a Cassian Andor action figure from the show, not Rogue One.
Now I gotta go buy them. Now I hate you.
Yes, you do. And I encourage your debt increasement, just like you do for me.
I'm gonna have to get a Dedra too.
It might as well. Yes. I mean, buy all three at least, you know. But and the show's so good on so many levels. Like I think that in that first scene when he steals the TIE fighter, it's so much fun because you know he's stealing, he can't fly, he's crashing all over the place. Sure, but like he goes and he talks to this woman, and she works for the Empire, but she doesn't want to help them. And then she's like really scared that she's gonna die. Just the acting, the line delivery, so good in this first opening scene. You know?
Yeah, that actress did a great job, and just the idea that you know Cassian's like. Pretend you're flirting with me or whatever. I'm a pilot. I'm excited here. I mean, I'm just getting a little flirtatious. And then she does an excellent job of showing her anxiety and fear. And then she's like a fucking switch. When her boss comes, she's like, "Oh yeah, he's cute, isn't he?" Like
you're right. Yeah. It's so good on so many different levels. And thank God they made a fucking season 2 of this show. You know. Yes. Because they did not have to, you know?
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't think we're going to get much stuff like it. Was there other stuff you want to talk about with these first 3 episodes?
No, I was excited. And you know, I'm definitely willing to cram these episodes so we can cover them week of.
Yes. And then so next week we could do The Last of Us, Thunderbolts, and this.
Well, Thunderbolts we're going to have to do a week later because I'm not going to be able to see it on Thursday. Because it's not going to come out until Thursday.
Right.
So
no, yeah, likewise. Yeah, I'll probably see it next Thursday with my mom. But then, you know, we'll cover Last of Us and we'll cover the next batch of Andor. Yeah,
sounds good.
Yeah, man. So if you guys liked listening to me and Brian talk about Andor, come back for a more in-depth discussion of the next batch of episodes, the next 3. So that would be episodes 4, 5, and 6 of season 2. We just covered The Last of Us season 2, episode 2. We're going to be covering that this whole season 2. I don't know how many times I can say fucking season in 30 seconds. But anyway, make sure you guys subscribe and you like this video. And we love y'all. Not as much as we love Andor. But yeah, we love y'all. All right, see you.